Patrick Findaro here, co-founder at Visa Franchise and Vetted Biz. Excited to have on Jamie Krasnov, who's the CEO of Apex Leadership Company. Jamie, thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me, Patrick. As I was telling you earlier, I'm a big fan. I was watching the show and I just reached out and wanted to see if I could join. So I'm just a big fan. I like what you do. I think you're super honest about the brands. I think you're super helpful. And I feel like there's not a lot of content out there that's helpful for franchising. And so I'm just a fan and admirer and appreciate you having me on.
No, my pleasure, Jamie. And you have kind of a unique transition into the franchising space. When I've only spoken to one other person like you in my conversations, in franchising now for over 10 years, where you effectively acquired an existing company and now you're growing that further. Could you talk a little bit about your transition from working in finance, working in private equity, hedge fund space to going out and buying an existing business, a franchise business?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. So I've spent 10 years in private equity like roles and that's where I really got introduced to franchising. And I fell in love with the business as a lot of people do super early on. I just think it's awesome. And there were a lot of really cool brands that, I thought some were amazing and some weren't as amazing. And I loved kind of comparing them and sort of doing what you're doing, I think, a little bit. And so I really resonated with that. And that was a lot of fun. One thing I didn't like about being in that space was, we focused on a lot of different companies. We didn't need them all to grow a ton to be successful. They just have to grow a little bit. And some could fail, some could, as long as most of them succeeded, that kind of worked out. I never felt like I really got to get into the guts of a company and get really involved. So I wanted to just work with one company and spend all of my professional time on that company. And I wanted to really grow that company. In private equity, they use a lot of debt with companies. So you just need a little bit of growth and you can do really well. And that works out. But nobody's really trying to find a company that can super grow and investing everything that they have, time, energy, and resources to do that. And I wanted to find a company that we were so excited about that we would do that. So I went on my path and was able to find some supporters financially for that. We spoke about it earlier. They were all primarily other CEOs who had a similar vision and wanted to do something along those lines. We could have invested in every industry. And as I was thinking about what industry to invest in, I remembered how much I loved franchising financially. But then if I was going to spend 100% of my free time, I started to think about what am I passionate about? And the idea of giving someone a ticket to entrepreneurship was so cool. It was just awesome. I mean, you see people who want to be entrepreneurs, who want to grow, who want to do the right thing, who have all the talent in the world, and you get to be that partner for them. And the best part is you're linked. Your successes are linked. If you don't do right by them, you're going to fail. And if you do right by them, you're going to succeed. So franchising was the only place that I wanted to spend time. And we went down that path and reached out to every franchise out there. As I was telling you earlier, we resonated with a lot because I'm an entrepreneur. We are institutionally backed, but I'm an entrepreneur, and many of the folks that we reached out to were the original entrepreneurs for their franchise. And they resonated with entrepreneur to entrepreneur as opposed to maybe entrepreneur to a big institution. Giving away their baby to another entrepreneur felt more right. And we went through 4,000, and I got to tell you, this was the best one. You rarely get to do that. I mean, it's almost like buying a house. Like you go out and you try and find the best house. You might see a house that you really like, but you don't get that house. You go into, Zillow and you get a house like that, or maybe it's a little bit worse or in your price range. And this was the perfect house. So we feel very fortunate that we got to acquire it, and it just was needed a lot of investment to take all over the world because it's a wonderful business for everybody involved. And so we bought it a few years ago. It's grown a ton, but we think it's going to grow way more. And so we're just out here kind of sharing our story.
And Jamie, when you were exploring these thousands of brands, did you write other letters of intent? Like,
Yeah.
did you go through the process with other franchise companies?
Yeah. I mean, I can talk about industry wise, and there were so many. And the cool thing about franchising is, for somebody who gets fascinated by what businesses do, which I bet a lot of your listeners do, you're in franchising, you've got, hundreds or thousands or many industries where you get to kind of learn what people are doing. So that was really fun. And we went down very deep, past what you call LOI, which is a letter of intent, where you're telling an owner like, hey, I'm kind of interested in you. It's kind of like dating. Maybe you're dating at that point before you get married. And so we got to a very good look. Once you do that, you get a very deep look into the company. And there were some great companies out there, some in the home services space, some in the commercial cleaning services space, some in restaurant space. There's a lot of restaurants out there. We looked at several promotional products businesses. Brands may be kind of coming out of your head right now as I'm saying some of these, and there were a lot of good ones and some less good ones. But as I thought about where I wanted to spend my time, I thought, well, where can I find something we can really grow, where there's a big market and a great product, and then what am I going to do that I'm going to be passionate about, because I'm going to work on this for a very long time. And this knocked it out of the park for both of them. So again, I felt like we got the house that we wanted, not the one that on Zillow that was like, for sale or whatever.
What do Apex Leadership Company franchisees do?
Awesome. I'm happy you asked. So we serve elementary schools, and every school in America relies on the community for fundraising. And over the last kind of 40 or even 50 years, they've all kind of used this door-to-door cookies, popcorn, and magazine sales. We call them product fundraisers. And they were kind of cool when they started, but as time has grown, like pretty obvious that nobody really wants to buy those things. And because no one wants to buy those things, they don't raise very much money, and they're kind of dangerous for the kids. But we don't fund our schools like they do in other countries. We have kind of a different philosophy. And so those PTAs or principals are forced to use that product to fundraise for their school. So they go about it and they do it. And that's what's in 90% of schools today.
What is Scholastic? Like, I got that in my daughter's preschool. Like,
Scholastic it's technically, I don't want to badmouth Scholastic at all because I believe in reading. But what we find is, I'm a big fan of reading, actually. But what we find is two things. Technically, it is a product fundraiser, right? It's a product. It's kind of a good product, right? Because they're reading as opposed to selling candy bars. But the thing is that our fundraising product and service, it's more fitness, character, and leadership based. And what we find is that the schools tend to raise way more. The kids get a little bit more excited about that, maybe than fundraising for books. And so our business tends to raise multiples for schools what a Scholastic's Books Fair might do. We can cohabitate for sure, but our business will end up raising a lot more for schools. And so Scholastic does that for some schools, and they're trying to grow right now. But our product and service is picking up a lot of share. The customers, we call them clients in our business, we call our franchisees customers. The clients are sort of telling us and telling the rest of the school fundraising companies that they want to do this. And so it's picking up more and more share. Started at 0, and our type of doing it now is at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8% of all schools. We want to be in 50% of schools. And we think there's a lot of evidence to suggest that that's possible. And so going back to your question, what does a franchisee do? They say, hey, what are you guys doing at your school for fundraising? Because everyone does it. And they typically say, we're doing door-to-door sales. They might have a Scholastic Book Fair. They might have a daddy-daughter dance. They might have an auction. They might have all those things. And some of those things are great.
Silent auctions.
Yeah, silent auction. Yeah.
90s. They still do that?
They still do it. Yeah, they still do it. And the two problems with that, well, really three, are a lot of those don't tend to raise a lot of money. The person putting them on is usually a PTA president, and it's a ton of work for a volunteer. And they're not always, in some cases they help the kids, and in some cases they don't, right? If you do a golf tournament, kind of question, maybe the kids are there, but maybe not. If you're doing a golf tournament with the elementary school, or certainly a product-based fundraiser around like cookies and candy doesn't seem to help the kids. So our clients, PTA presidents, are sort of frustrated with the options and looking for a better solution. And what we do is we say, hey, we're going to come into your school. We have a team of athletes, and we're going to do a pep rally, and we're going to be in the school for 2 weeks, the whole school day. And we're going to do a program through that pep rally and over the 2 weeks around fitness, character, and leadership. And it's going to be awesome. The kids are going to love it. They're going to learn lessons that we don't think are in the current curriculum around being proactive and optimistic and other leadership and fitness and sort of character, other positive attributes that we think are helpful for the kids. They're going to love it. And every day they're going to come home and share that lesson with their parent. And their parent is going to log on to our online platform, share a couple of phone numbers of their friends and family, And we're going to tell the world that little Johnny's doing a fun run in 2 weeks. So we're going to tell the whole world, and we're going to text message them and email them and all this
And
stuff.
it's probably the first time he's ever done a race before.
Yeah, I mean, your grandma in New York, or my grandma's in London, or your uncle in Nebraska, or wherever he is, he's not contributing, to the conventional fundraising techniques, because he's not asking for the candy or whatever it is, because he's 1,000 miles away. But he or she has a big appetite to donate to a fun run around character, leadership, and fitness. And so when we let those folks know that little Johnny's doing a fun run, they typically want to contribute. And so what that is, it recruits a tremendous amount of resources all over the country to contribute to little Johnny's fun run. And so at the end of those 2 weeks, little Johnny will run 30 laps. They're tiny laps. They're not a lot, but he'll run 30 laps. And people will pledge per lap in our system, and we'll mark the laps on his shirt, and he will have an amazing time. And then we'll upload that number to our technology, and we will swipe all the credit cards at the same time. And that will, on average, raise a school $50,000. So compare that to a product-based fundraiser, which is doing 5. It's like a 10x increase that, if you ask our clients, our PTA presidents, they have trouble believing it a lot of the time. Once they see it, they know, but it is a extraordinary, amazing, incredible increase that allows the school to afford things like laptops or jungle gyms or whatever. I saw an engineering lab the other day, or security equipment, or whatever that community needs. It allows them to get those things which they never really had access to before. Before, they were trying to raise money for like printer ink and maybe a field trip, pizza parties. So it's really rewarding. It's super awesome. And the last thing I'll mention is, because there's such an enormous fundraise, because the dollars are so big, it allows for a franchise model whereby our franchisees can invest in the school with people and equipment and supplies and all those things, and put on a really good program for the kids, still make a profit for themselves and support their family, and still deliver the school a huge amount of the majority of the funds and make the school very happy. And we have an 80 to 90% retention rate for our logo retention, meaning our schools come back 80 to 90%. I'd never seen that in franchising. Maybe there are some brands out there that do stuff like that, but I knew when I saw that there was something special going on. And so it allows a really talented person to leave their corporate job, support their community, and build a really nice and potentially really big business that's super profitable and helps their community at the same time. And so that's what we do. That's how we serve schools.
And so you mentioned, say the franchisee is able to work with the elementary school, raise $50,000. How much does the franchisee make from that?
So our franchise, we can only speak to what's in our FDD, but our average franchisee will make $150,000 of profit, with our top quartile doing way more than that, maybe double that. What's in our FDD, a bit more than double that. And that's a function of him or her delivering like tons of value to a school, and them coming back and then building a deep relationship and able to build a really nice profit model, which, compared to our really, really low upfront costs, which is usually pretty appealing to a lot of prospective franchisees, as I'm sure you are aware of.
What are we talking about? How much to get in?
We tell our folks our item 7, which is like what people usually look at to see kind of how much to get in, is pretty low, 6 figures all in. And so that's pretty affordable. And the reason why it's so low is we don't have a brick and mortar build out. And so that's very compelling for a lot of people who are maybe new to construction, don't want to deal with that, don't want to write a $500,000, $1 million, I've seen some of the brands on here, maybe even $2 million check, and even more than that sometimes. It's really compelling for folks not to want to write a huge check and get a huge lease and start losing money day one. And that's how we keep our buyout or our buy-in number super low.
So someone invests, say, like 150K over some time, per your item 19, they're doing profit 150K. I mean, they should be able to sell the business for 2 to 4 times that.
Yeah, we want them to do a lot better than that. And we think that we've advanced the system now such that is a much more reliable figure. But that is the average performance. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because there's a lot of franchises that, sadly, you probably saw in Vetted Biz, the resale value is less than the initial investment amount.
I mean, that's I don't want to call out any brands,
Yeah.
Maybe I do that off camera, but I'm just kidding. But yeah, I mean, it's our industry is, we feel like we're the best players. There's not a ton of competition like there would be maybe in a gym business, as an example. Again, not calling anyone else. That's a more mature business, very competitive. Our industry is less competitive than a gym business. It allows for us to differentiate ourselves, provide a ton of value to our clients, and then be rewarded economically for it too.
How many franchisees do you have right now?
We have probably now about 65, 70 franchisees, kind of growing quickly. And each of those people have bought a territory and then come back and maybe bought multiple territories. The
All
majority of
right,
our
so that's a big
franchisees,
testament.
yeah, have 2 to 3 territories.
And Jamie, what are you looking for in a franchisee?
I'm happy you said that. I watch a lot of your videos, and I love when I see CEOs come on, or whoever from a franchise brand, and say, here's who we're looking for. And I've seen that happen a few times already. We operate by a certain kind of set of values that are important to us. And I won't kind of bore your viewers with all of that. But really, we look for kind of 2 or 3 things. We want someone to first resonate with what we do in schools. And that's usually a pretty easy check mark, because I got to tell you, it's just a awesome experience. Our Discovery Day is at an elementary school. It's just very, very compelling. So that's first.
And it's a great
So
environment to be
it's
in.
a great, it's, I mean, it's just hard to explain it to people over,
Schools and like things with animals, it's a fun place to be working.
and then imagine like all the kids, like, average age of 8 are like at a high school pep rally going crazy. It's
That's
just,
fun.
they
Yeah.
scream a lot louder than the high school kids too. And we see our team like delivering these really cool, valuable character lessons. It's hard to leave that. And I know that happened to me when I was looking at the brand. It's hard to leave that and not say, I got to do this. It's just very, very hard. So if they've gotten to our Discovery Day, that's very likely that they're going to check that first box. The second thing is, we are a newer brand compared to McDonald's, and we're not sitting on the street corner. So we really rely on our we really rely on our franchisees to tell our story, like a lot of brands without a brick and mortar location. And so if you are compelled to tell our story in your community, if you have the energy and skills or desire to do that, that's really important to me. If you're more compelled maybe to sit behind a desk and not as comfortable with people and all those sorts of things, that might not be as good of a fit for our brand. We really want folks to get out there and tell our story.
Business development, sales,
All of that.
extroverts.
Yeah. Extroverts. Yeah. We can work with introverts for sure, and we can train on that. But the desire to get out there, connect with your community, and tell our story is really important to us scaling the business inside communities.
What's a headcount look like? Like after you scale up, you have 3 territories.
What's great about our business relative to other ones is, first of all, there's no lease, like I said, and then you're not losing money day one. You don't have to hire a staff. Like, you're hiring as you're going. Ideally, you're getting your first school very quickly and producing profits like that, very, very quick. But you're hiring as you're going. You're not starting in the red the day you open your door, so to speak, or even the day you start the franchise. So yeah, you're not starting the business in the red. You are kind of investing in people as you grow. And we really can get to profitability very quickly because, again, you're starting from zero, not in the red. But after you scale, let's say you've got 3 territories or 3 teams, you've got like maybe 8 to 12 people that are working for you. It can go as high as 20. That's what you want to grow to. So you're managing a team of, yeah, maybe 10 people once you've scaled the business. And those people are usually, I mean, they're the real talent of our business. They're inside the schools. They're very passionate about kids. They're very passionate about leadership. And for a mission-based company like us, you get these incredibly talented people to come work at your organization and just really resonate with the mission. And they just fall in love with the brand and stay, if they're good fits for the brand, forever. They never leave. I was just at a school with, somebody who's been with us for 10, 11, 12 years. She said, I could just never imagine leaving. So you really are able to recruit a very mission-based person. And hopefully you have 10 of those on your staff.
And it's full-time W-2 jobs.
Mm-hmm. We sometimes, it sort of depends on the franchisee. They might do it W-2, they might do it 1099. But once you're scaled, you're probably W-2. And then you might have some flexibility on how you pay people over winter break, for example. But in general, it's close to full-time work with some like margins on the edge on how you want to structure that.
And I understand you're a youth basketball coach.
Yeah, I am. I feel like everybody does something philanthropically, but they have like their career as one thing and their philanthropy as another thing. And so, like for me, for example, at one point I was many years ago, my career was we were working on a big manufacturing business. That was my one thing, and then youth basketball was my kind of philanthropy thing. And I've been doing that for the last 10 years, just trying to support my community, just trying to give back to the city. What's cool about Apex is like it's very efficient. It's a way to combine both of those things and just get very passionate about what you do every day. It's a real mission based, passionate kind of business.
And so, I mean, it obviously seems like you've enjoyed the ride and you've grown revenue. What is it, 2x during your tenure
A little
operating
bit
the
more than
business?
that, but that's okay. We have a lot more bigger sites than that.
What have been like the keys to growing that?
Really, there's just one, and I think it's for any business. I mean, I guess it depends on the business, but it's all about bringing in the right people at every level and getting kind of very clinical and specific about who you're looking for. And the most important people that we look for are franchisees. That's kind of a very important role for us. And they're independent business owners and they operate as entrepreneurs, and we have a lot of respect for that. But getting the right franchisees is really important. And then we also need the right team to support those franchisees. And then getting the right folks inside the schools and getting the right people involved has just made the business, investing in people has just made the business multiples of where it was when we bought it.
Jamie, we've gone through a lot today. What it's like being a franchisee, your transition from the investment world to running a business, operating a franchise system. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that could be of interest to prospective franchisees?
Yeah, I might just mention one last thing. When I was looking at franchises to buy, I kind of felt like a franchisee, a prospective franchisee, because I was looking for three things. And I was confused at the time. It took a lot of thought and a lot of time for me to kind of outline these three things. There's so many brands out there, it's hard to choose. You want one that does this, but that, and this. And I sort of outlined it down to three things. One, if you're going to do this full time, it's got to make a profit. That is first and foremost. You got to make a profit based on your investment. And the numerator, it's not going to be tough math, just very easy math. The numerator has got to be big and the denominator has got to be small, meaning the amount you make versus what you invest. Hopefully that's very, very compelling. That's first and foremost that you got to check off because you're going to have to support your family. And then secondly, you want to join a system where you feel supported, where the franchisees are happy. And you might get a chance to talk to the franchisees. And if they seem happy, that's really, really important. So you really want to find a place where the franchisees are happy. And then the last thing I'll mention is if you're going from a corporate job to owning a franchise, you're really taking a shot. I mean, you're really taking a shot on yourself. And you're going to spend all your time doing something and all of your effort. And you really get one shot, maybe two over the course of multiple decades. You want to do something that you're passionate about. So if you can check off those three things, you're in really good shape. For me, Apex was those three things as buying the whole brand and operating the brand as the CEO. And for many of our franchisees, that is as well. Apex can help our franchisees support their family well. Our franchisees are very happy. And, it's an obvious passion play for people who are passionate about fitness, their community, and kids. So for me, that was a home run. And if our brand resonates with you, we welcome the opportunity to talk to you. But whether it's our brand or any brand that, Patrick, you go through, I think that's what I want to tell to your listeners. The experience I've had is try to check off those three things. If you can do that, you're probably in pretty good shape.
Jamie, what's the best way for people to reach out if they're interested in exploring Apex leadership further?
So we are growing our territory base very quickly right now and bringing on a lot of the right franchisees. And if you just go to franchise.apexleadershipco.com and you go to contact us, again, that's franchise.apexleadershipco.com, and you just go to the contact us page, we'll get in touch with you. We will share some information. We'll tell you if we think you're the right fit and vice versa. And we can kind of go down that road and see if we can potentially partner together.
Perfect, Jamie. We'll be sure to include that in the show notes. And thanks so much for joining. I'm looking forward to seeing how the coming years are for you and your franchisees.
Thank you, Patrick. I'm a big fan. I think what you're doing for folks is really helpful. And so I'll continue to watch and just very thankful to be invited.
No, thanks for reaching out. Appreciate it, Jamie.
Thanks, Patrick.